Guys, what is going on? So we started off, we had a stream that we ended like an hour ago to talk about how Fulton County District Attorney's Office decided to drop the single count that Damon Blaylock was facing in the YSL indictment. He had just count 1 for that RICO. Well, apparently 5 more defendants are having at least some of their charges dropped. We're going to tally it. We're going to go through each one by one. We're going to tally it off. It's not just the RICO charge being dropped against these defendants. For example, Khalif Adams is having his attempted murder charge in relation to Rayshawn Bennett, YFN Lucci. That's part of the motion here to be dropped. So we're going to go through this. Like, this is what is going on? Like, they left Adam Abate alone at the state's table after this verdict where the jurors found no RICO. And Abate seems to be turning around like, all right then, I'm just going to clean this up. We're going to make this more efficient. There was some conversation we had in discussion when we just thought it was Damon Blaylock having that 1 count dismissed. Maybe they were going to attach it in if his... And this seems like too much of a mind game to me. I'm not subscribing to this theory. But just as a possibility, Damon Blaylock's appealing his murder conviction for the Jamari Holmes murder. If that appeal is successful, there was some suggestion that perhaps upon retrial, they would attach a RICO count on that retrial. I think this dispels that being some long-winded strategy. Doesn't really make sense if we're also getting that charge, that count dismissed for several others. So let's get into this. We're going to start off with a summary here from Joseph Papp. I should be showing him, my bad. I should have his name up here. I'll link to this. It is in the description as well. Big shout out to Joseph Papp. You hear me shout him out a lot. I think I say his name wrong because I think Papp might be Bab. My bad, Joe. But here's the link to him. Make sure you're supporting him. He does a ton of great work. Definitely deserves the love and attention. And, thanks from us. Let's start with his summary of this, and then we'll get into each motion, look at the counts one by one, and see if it matches up with everything that's in the indictment against these 6, including Damon Blaylock. So this summary here, prosecutors move to drop, let me make this bigger, move to drop charges against 6 more defendants in YSL case. 6. Like, this is crazy. We have Pee Wee Roscoe take his plea yesterday. Unfortunately, he pled guilty to count 1. So that's something that stuck for him. Make this bigger for you guys. But what about the remaining 11? We've got 6 of the remaining 11. And this is Khalif Adams, by the way. Fulton County prosecutors said they're dropping charges against 6 of the remaining defendants in the gang and racketeering Young Slime Life case. In motions filed Wednesday night, prosecutors sought to dismiss charges against Khalif Adams, Damon Blaylock, Javoris Bradford, Justin Cobb, Javon Fleetwood, and Jaden Myrick. All 6 were indicted, along with Atlanta rapper Young Thug, in May 2022 for violating the state's Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act and a number of gang, drug, and gun charges. So here is this Damon Blaylock. All right, so face to a name here, guys. This is Blaylock. We already went through his count. We'll look at it briefly again. But he was only facing count 1, RICO, and we looked at that motion to null pros that charge earlier today. The 6 were split off from the original trial, which concluded Tuesday for a variety of reasons. Khalif Adams was severed because his attorney was pregnant during jury selection. Because, yeah, that was like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Well, 2. Bradford and Fleetwood didn't have attorneys by December 2022. Blaylock got sick during jury selection. And Cobb is not in custody. Myrick was severed, which is interesting. Because remember, Love said she wanted to approach... Oh, maybe she was already... Maybe the matter they wanted to approach about for Justin Cobb involved, they already knew that they were going to do something with this. Myrick was severed after a mental health evaluation. You might remember Myrick as the one... He became a meme, and then it came out that he had a mental health evaluation. He was seen, it looked like he was bobbing his head around a lot wearing headphones, and people thought he was just like jamming out to something. But he was actually suffering from a mental health condition. So you might remember Myrick because of that. And admitting to the judge that he hadn't taken his medication in several months. Chief Deputy District Attorney Adam Abate wrote that the dismissal of charges is being sought in the interest of the public and of judicial economy. These are motions. They have to give a judge a reason, and maybe it seems like a formality, but they got to do it. The dismissal bids followed a verdict Tuesday in which Diamante Kendrick and Shannon Stillwell were both acquitted of murder, gang, and racketeering charges. Stillwell was convicted on a lone gun charge. Both remain in jail on unrelated pending charges. Among the charges on the chopping block Wednesday are murder charges against Bradford and Cobb relating to the 2015 death of Donovan Thomas. Demise McMullen, who would be the only defendant still facing a murder charge in Thomas's death after Tuesday's verdict. So remember, there were 5 with this indictment, right? Because initially we had Antonio Sledge being looked at. We had Kenneth Copeland being looked at. Sprinkle was like, no. They ended up redoing the indictment, charging new people. That was Shannon Stillwell, Diamante Kendrick, who were both just acquitted. Then you have Javaris Bradford and Justin Cobb and Demise McMullen. So now for this Donovan Thomas murder, the only one we don't know something about. Maybe something could still happen before the final plea hearing on December 17th. Just one person. When this was supposed to be some grand scheme conspiracy. Crazy. Prosecutors are asking to cut RICO and attempted murder charges against Khalif Adams, noting that he was convicted in 2019 on murder and other charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So this would be where you say, like, all right, judicial efficiency, I guess, you know. He's stuck one way or another, so let's trim this down. The attempted murder charge is related to the stabbing of rapper and alleged rival gang member YSL at the Fulton County Jail in February of 2022. Adams gained notoriety during jury selection for allegedly handing Young Thug the Percocet pill in open court. So here's Myrick sitting here. Similar to Adams, prosecutors are seeking to dismiss charges against Myrick after he was sentenced in October 2022 to life without parole, followed by 3 consecutive life sentences on murder and other charges. Myrick also faced a RICO charge and charge related to the jailhouse stabbing. Blaylock, who faces a single RICO charge, we looked at this morning in detail, was convicted in September 2021 of murder in the 2019 death of 15-year-old Jamari Holmes. He, along with former co-defendant Rodelius Ryan, were sentenced to life in prison. Blaylock was also allegedly involved in a separate stabbing at the Fulton County Jail in 2023. He's appealing his murder conviction. And now they tried to get this in as an overt act, I think. But I don't think they succeeded. Let's see. It just jumped. Prosecutors filed a motion seeking to dismiss Fleetwood's sole RICO charge from the indictment, noting that he was convicted in July 2021 of attempted murder, gang, and gun charges, and sentenced 20 years to serve 8 in custody. So, he's only got, when we looked at the indictment this morning, we're like, hey, Javon Fleetwood's another one that only has this count 1. So if they're dropping this against him, he was convicted in 2021. I don't know when he was taken into custody, but like, let's just say that started brand new. I doubt it. You know, he would be 3 years in, 3.5 years minimum into this 8 he's got to serve. So, not too far away there for Javon Fleetwood. Abate also wrote that the dismissal of these charges reduced the number of defendants in the custody of the Fulton County Sheriff and reduces the potential for safety and security concerns in the trial of this case. It's not the first time prosecutors have dismissed charges against YSL defendants, citing previous convictions. Charges against Cordarius Dorsey were dismissed in September 2023 after he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. So this is more of a judicial efficiency reason, right? He's already going to do life. After the verdict against Kendrick and Stillwell was rendered on Tuesday, Judge Paige Reese Whitaker encouraged attorneys to continue plea negotiations until December 17th. On Wednesday, that was yesterday, Jimmy Winfrey, also known as Pee Wee Roscoe, took a plea deal to resolve his case. So, and good point here on the math here from Joseph. If the judge rubber stamps the prosecutor's dismissal briefs for these defendants, 5 defendants will remain in the case. So let's go through one by one and see what charges, because it's not just RICO. Some of these counts that are being dismissed here go beyond the RICO. So we'll go side by side with each of the motions. And let me get the indictment. Like, this is crazy. Let's see what you guys are saying a bit too, and then we'll get into these motions here. Cause like this is just kind of like Adam Abate comes into this late. It's a hot mess. We get no RICO, no gang as a jury verdict. They're like, no, 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 no. Maybe they took some time to listen to the jurors, some of the feedback from the jurors. And they looked at the case that was remaining in front of them, took heed to Whitaker saying, like, we are doing this in February, and this is going to be a 90-day trial. I'm not going to play games. So, seems like Abate's taking that seriously, and whether this is for whatever actual motive, he's got to get this case cleaned up. He's got to be ready to go by February to start it, and he's got to be able to present his case against the remaining defendants in a 90-day period. Right? So this could all be pure strategy to try to have a successful case against the remaining 5. Right? But at the same time, when I said this in the last stream we did earlier today, when you have prosecutors starting to argue, like, look, we're trying to reduce the burden on the sheriff's office, the jail's crazy, we're trying to reduce the jail population, get the number of people in custody down. If you have prosecutors starting to make that argument, it seems like that opens the door a little bit more for those arguments to be heard and absorbed and digested and listened to when defense attorneys make those same motions. It'll be very interesting to see if the rate of which bond, right? How hard are prosecutors going to try to fight bond when we're seeing them in motions give a reduction in the number of people in custody as a reason to drop charges against people we've had sitting awaiting trial for 2 years, right? What happens now when a defense attorney makes a motion to file bond for their client? Is Adam Abate going to get up there and be able to look serious when he says, it's fine, it's fine, we just want to hold him, we don't really have a valid reason to hold him, but we're going to show you a social media post and we're going to say he's dangerous, so keep him, right? Like, there's this is kind of like bigger in between the lines than I think it looks like at a first glance. Let's see. Yep, that's exactly it, Danielle Judge. If they want that, they should give bail. They are only dangerous to society until they sign the plea deal. Yep, and then you can go out. And as the defense attorneys pointed out in the YSL trial that just ended, none of the terms of these plea deals require you to stay away from the people you're supposed to be so scary and threatening towards. That's not a term of your plea. It's not any of the special conditions. So why was it such a, oh no, we can't give you bond, but we can give you a plea deal? Like, crazy. Crazy. Shout out Toothless Tiger, good to see you. Toothless Tiger saying, hey, cat mods and chat, the gig is up, they failed. I mean, like, this just all seems crazy. It seems like they took 3 years and they said, you know what, let's just whittle this down. Let's focus more on the individual prosecutions. Let's not look at this like a RICO anymore. When they tried to make RICO happen for 3 years. Longer than that if you trace it all the way back to the investigation phase before this May 2022 and then re-indictment in August 2022, the current indictment. Like, I'm just in shock. I'm just in shock. And thank you for the 2 here, Toothless Tiger. Let's see here. So the first one we're going through is for Khalif Adams. So a lot of this is going to repeat, but we want to look at the counts, right? So Khalif Adams, I believe this is going to be all 4. So they are dismissing all 4 of the counts here, right? He had, let's see, 1 was attempted murder. He had, 1 is always going to be RICO, but 40, 42, and 43. Attempted murder, participation in criminal street gang activity A and B. So this was in relation to the attempted stabbing of Rayshawn Bennett, YFN Lucci. So they're just like, that's it. We're just gonna, that's it. We're not gonna do that anymore. After they made it, they made this. They made Khalif Adams counts sort of a focal point in recent weeks as we ended this YSL trial that just ended. They showed us all the footage of the Rayshawn Bennett stabbing, attempted stabbing. Well, successful stabbing, but attempted murder. And then now they're just going to drop it. Let's see. Let's see the reasons. We'll look at the individual reasons. I think we're going to get a repeat of the broader reason, but we might get a little bit nuance in each of these motions. We'll look for the differences between them because we've got 6 to look at. So specifically for Adams, you know, he already has been tried and convicted by a jury of his peers for the charges contained in a separate indictment, including murder and other related charges. This defendant, Khalif Adams, is already sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus a consecutive 50 years in confinement. So rationale here being probably a good choice. He's already stuck anyway. OCGA 17-8-3 provides that after an examination of the case in open court and before it has been submitted to a jury, prosecuting attorney may enter a nolle prosequi. So he's going to cite a bunch of case law. This is the same paragraph. We're going to see this same paragraph in all of these motions, is my guess. It's the case law. We're going to read it one time here. If you watched the stream earlier, it's going to feel like repetition because it is. But just know that this is, I guarantee this paragraph is going to be in all the motions. But let's look at it. It's the case law that allows a prosecutor to null pros something, but still, if they wish, present certain evidence against others that are still charged and still going to trial. So the entry of an order of nolle prosequi as to the defendant Adams on counts 1, 4, 42, and 43 of the instant indictment has no effect on the state's ability to present evidence of the offenses alleged in this indictment. This is under 16-2-21. Any party to a crime who did not directly commit the crime may be indicted, tried, convicted, and punished for commission of the crime upon proof that the crime was committed and that he was a party thereto. Although the person claimed to have directly committed the crime has not been prosecuted or convicted, has been convicted of a different crime or degree of crime, or is not amenable to justice, or has been acquitted. And they cite the cases here. So you have Edis versus State. The acquittal of one party to a crime does not bar the prosecution and conviction of another party to that crime. Williams v. State, where a separate written order on a null pros is entered as to one co-defendant, clearly showing that one or more counts were abandoned only as to that defendant, there is no termination of those charges against remaining co-defendants. Also, the entry of such an order here does not operate as an adjudication of either the innocence or the guilt of the accused. That's King v. State. A null pros in this case does, however, reduce the number of defendants for which the Fulton County Sheriff will have responsibility during this trial, and this fact necessarily reduces the potential for safety and security concerns in the trial of this case. So we're looking at Adams, the motion to drop the counts against Adams, but it's the same exact text that we saw in the Blaylock motion. And then now their reasons. So for all these reasons, and in the interest of public and judicial economy, because we've got to tell the court why they should grant this order, grant this motion. The state respectfully moves this honorable court to enter an order of null pros in this case to defendant Khalif Adams on counts 1, 40, 42, and 43. So there you go, signed by Fani Willis and Adam Abadi. And the next one coincidentally happens to be Blaylock. We've already said a lot. He only had this count 1 RICO. That's gone. That's null prost. We have the same exact paragraph here. And again, the same reasons. In the interest of public and judicial economy. And for all these reasons, we move to get rid of this RICO count. So that's number 2 today off the case. Next one is, who do we got? Javoris Bradford. Is that Tuda? Let's get these nicknames here. Because Damon Blaylock was Bali. Yeah, Javaris Bradford here is Tuda, and he was facing murder and RICO. Did they spell? Okay, oh my god. Okay, so Javoris Bradford here. But in the indictment, it's Javaris with an A instead of the O here for the second. Oh, man. Good old typos. But yeah, here, they're gonna null pros count 1 and count 2. So RICO and the murder. Like, that, isn't that just like crazy? Oh well, So let's see. We get all the case law, and we get extra emphasis here. This is interesting. We have some extra emphasis here. That an entry of an order of null pros as to defendant Bradford's on counts 1 and 2 of this instant indictment is no reflection and has no effect on the state's ability to present evidence of the offenses alleged in this indictment. So this is going to go on to be that same paragraph I said would repeat itself, but we've got extra bolding here. And I would imagine that this would be because they're still planning to go after Demise McMullen, aka Nard, for the murder of Donovan Thomas. So when we drop count 1 against Damon Blaylock, Rico, maybe not that important to emphasize, but it seems like they want to emphasize here that we're still going to use, the same evidence on this count 2, this murder count, because we're still going to go after Demise McMullen, aka Nard. So interesting here to see the emphasis. Also emphasized is we can still use the evidence even if that person has been acquitted. We can use it against a different defendant. So otherwise, it's the exact same language. And again, for the reasons herein, in the interest of the public and of judicial economy, the state respectfully moves this honorable court to enter a null pros order for Javaris Bradford on counts 1 and counts 2. So there's that. Very interesting bolding. Next, we have Justin Cobb, who is, last we knew, was on the run. And actually, I'm noticing one other thing. So when I was reading the AJC article, I noticed Joseph pointed out, this was all filed on Wednesday night. And all of these dates here are December 4th, except for Damon Blaylock. That was entered today. So I don't know if that's necessarily interesting. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just the time they got done getting everything together. But it seems like Joseph Papp already was aware of this, had time to write his article. So just noting here that everything else was submitted on the 4th. Let's look at Justin Cobb. So this is the other defendant that was facing charges relating to Donovan Thomas's murder. So he was facing count 1 and count 2. And I think his @name is just Doo-Wop, right? Only one? Okay, so he only has his one nickname, just Doo-Wop. So Justin Cobb is Doo-Wop. And let's see, do we get the same emphasis? So again, remember, there's still, as of now, Demise McMullen is still charged. He's not part of this 6 co-defendant, knockout with the null pros today. He's still charged with the Donovan Thomas murder, and as of right now, it seems like the state plans to prosecute him. We don't know about any plea deals as of yet. Maybe one will arise. But we have the same bolding. They're null prosing this count 2, this murder of Donovan Thomas. They're null prosing this for the second of the 3 remaining, right? And they're bolding the same things. So to me, this emphasis is bolding. I don't know if we're going to see a very good plea deal offered to Demise McMullen, to Nard. Very interesting to see. And I won't know anything for sure until we see it. But otherwise, it's the same language. And, again, for the interest of the public and judicial economy, we move to null pros counts 1 and 2. So, and then what do we have? I think we have 2 more. All right, Javon Fleetwood. Javon Fleetwood we saw earlier was another that was only dealing with count 1. What was his nickname? These nicknames are a bit hard to keep up with. Okay, so Javon Fleetwood is also known as Fortray and also known as Psycho. So there we go. So just count 1 for him. And he's the one that has, he's got 8 to serve on a different charge. So he had taken a plea previously for a criminal attempt to commit murder, participation in criminal street gang activity, and related gun charges. So he's stuck doing 8 years in custody from a plea deal that that went into effect on July 30th, 2021. So I don't know the exact calculator on how much time he has left to serve, but we're in 2024 currently, December 2024. And if he was in custody by the time he took this plea, he could be about halfway through. And look at this, this is the repeating paragraph, but we don't have that bold emphasis. We don't have the bolding emphasis that we saw with the two that are getting that count 2 null prossed. And again, in the interest of the public and of judicial economy, state moves this court to enter an order of null pros for Javon Fleetwood on count 1. Whew. We've got one more. This is crazy. So Jaden Myrick also, heard his name because of this Rayshawn Bennett attempted stabbing. But counts 1, 40, 41, 42, and 43. What specifically was different with 41? Let's look at 41. Oh, okay. So for Khalif Adams had 40, 42, and 43, but not 41. 41 is possession of weapon by incarcerated individual. So they're putting the shank on Myrick here. And Myrick was that set trip? Yeah, Myrick was set trip, aka J-Man. Go back over here. So they want to drop all of this, including they want to null pros the possession of the weapon by incarcerated individual. Now, this is really interesting because remember, Shannon Stillwell, Diamante Kendrick, they've been acquitted, but I think they're both dealing with outstanding issues or had to just tidy up some other issues because they were charged with contraband, having contraband while in custody, while incarcerated. And here they're just going to null pros someone for having a weapon that, we watched this video. Rayshawn Bennett, he does get injured. It looks like a stab wound. He's bleeding. They're just going to null pros that. But they still got these charges hanging over the others' heads. And I hope that if we're null prossing here, that the same type of decision that's being applied here, the logic that's being applied here, can carry over to those other two. So, and again, let's see. This is all repetitious, but what's the difference here with Myrick? Myrick was already facing, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, followed by 3 consecutive life sentences, plus 15 years in confinement. So they said, he's done. Why are we gonna, we've got 90 days Whitaker's gonna give us to get through our case on anyone that we keep along. We don't give a plea and doesn't accept a plea. Right? We've got 90 days, so let's whittle this down. Let's make this more organized. Let's tunnel vision it. So probably pretty safe to say that Jaden Myrick's gonna remain incarcerated. That's crazy. Life without possibility of parole, followed by 3 consecutive life sentences, plus 15 years. And then we get the repeated paragraph with no emphasis, nothing bolded. And then again, in the interest of the public and of judicial economy, we move the court to null process. So, let's see. And then, hold on a minute. So, Pretty Eyes, let's look over. I believe he's just part of the RICO for it. Where's Demikian Garlington? Okay, he's further down. So he is not, so what are these others, though? What are these others? I mean, we could just go by name. Let's look at we'll work in reverse and go through the counts for Garlington. Let's get through these overt acts. Okay, where do these counts start? All right, so the first, right, that's the first one. So the first count, besides the RICO count, He's got attempted murder of Lucci. Attempted murder of Lucci. Well, participation in criminal street gang involving the attempted murder, participation in criminal street gang. Okay, and then let's see. Shamal Drinks. So he's only got the Shamal Drinks murder, Demikian Garlington. Participation in criminal street gang activity in relation to the murder of Shamal Drinks. And same thing, another count, participation of criminal street gang activity, 16-15-4B, in relation to the murder of Shamal Drinks. And then possession of firearm during commission of felony in relation to the murder of Shamal Drinks. So no. So, yeah. So he still has a lot, like that's a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see if they even offer him a plea, what the terms might look like, if he's willing to accept one. Because it seems like if they're bolding, because guys, we went through these 6 motions. And the 2, they all have this one same paragraph. And of the 6, 2 of them have that bolding in the, we can still use evidence to prosecute others, even though we're letting this person get null prossed, or we're asking for this person to be null prossed. We only have this bolding for the 2 that were charged with count 1, the murder of Donovan Thomas. So to me, I'm reading into that, but to me that seems like they are going to try to move forward with prosecuting Demise McMullen as the last remaining person for the Donovan Thomas murder. And maybe the same, we've still got Miles Farley, right? Who do we have here sitting here for, let's go back to that Donovan Thomas, the Shamal Drinks count. Because Nichols is gone. So I would imagine, I don't know what we'll see for maybe Miles Farley or Demikian Garlington. What's interesting here is we got kind of a hint that Hilton thinks a possible theory is that it was Demikian Garlington reaching over and shooting Shamal Drinks. We heard that during the evidentiary hearing when Shart was like, I don't even know if I understand what the state's theory about it all is. And Hilton's like, well, maybe. So these are the 2 remaining that are being charged with the murder of Shamal Drinks. This is a bad highlight, sorry. It's like highlighting Comarbius Nichols. But Miles Farley and Demikian Garlington. So we'll see. Between now and December 17th, maybe we'll see some pleas, maybe we'll see some action here. But it seems like if they're going to do the same, it looks like they're just going to focus on Demise McMullen, aka Nard, for this Donovan Thomas murder. Unless we see more motions to null pros. And I would imagine, I don't know, what else is Miles Farley charged with? Just all of, is this all of it just Shamal Drinks stuff? Let's go find Miles. Yeah, so all of his stuff, he has count 1 and then stuff relating to Shamal Drinks. I think he has a bunch of overt acts because since he's the clothing designer, they put in all those photos of him wearing like the slime, Make America Slime Again shirts. So he's got a bunch of overt acts. We heard about him because of that stuff. But really he comes into the picture because of the Shamal Drinks incident. So this is a day, you guys. Oh my gosh, Isabella Isabella says, I'll be sick if they pivot to say Miles did it. Look, I wouldn't put anything past them. So, like who knows? Who knows? Pretty Eyes Tea, could they actually charge Woody again for it? This makes me nervous. There's a small part of me, and I don't wish anyone to go through another nightmare, like 3-year-long mess, just to see if we can throw, it would just be throwing spaghetti at the wall. But I would love to see the way they played with an immunity order and contempt orders. I would kind of like to see that backfire in the state's face. So, And guys, unfortunately for Lil Rod, he took a plea. I mean, he could file a motion to withdraw the plea. However, remember, his sentencing was time served. So yes, he would still have a conviction, but as far as how it impacts his custody, the reason he's in custody is because of the conviction in the murder trial, which was separate from, like, he wasn't tried for murder in this YSL indictment. They just charged him with RICO with a predicate act of the murder of Jamari Holmes. And I don't really know the status of the appeal. There should be in the upcoming weeks or months, because the holidays are around the corner. Courts get caught up with their calendars after the holiday. They don't really seem to speed too much out in the middle of December. But maybe around like January, we'll get a notice from the Georgia Supreme Court that they do have an opinion that they plan to issue soon about Damon Blaylock's appeal. We talked about that a little bit this morning. We revisited the transcript of Miss Brazy. That was a time. So that's linked in the description there. And again, since they were co-defendants, you know, of course, Rodalius Ryan has to go through his own appeal, but if you're going in front of the same justices and you see a successful appeal argument for one defendant, you know, if it's successful for Blaylock, I think the odds would look good for Rodalius Ryan. You know, the facts kind of put them in the same scenario that they were convicted for. So, but it's all got to play out. Oh, okay. She Dun Dun is recalling here the plea colloquy. Miles is in the back seat of Nichols' car, and Hilton said they know Nichols did not do it during his plea agreement. Yeah, okay, that might be worth a rewatch. That might be worth a rewatch. So. Yeah, destined to be with the ultimate summary here. They've said it was about 7 different people at this point for both of the key murders, right? Like, the theory, I mean, not as much for Shamal Drinks, but it's Donovan Thomas. Yeah, it's just been like, maybe it was this person, maybe it was that person. Let's just put up a guess who board, the board game, and just start flipping pictures. Like, just crazy. And then Shamal Drinks, I would say, is starting to look that way too. Like, oh, we want to introduce this picture of Boyer in front of the jury just so people know Boyer's a real person. Okay, well, are you like introducing him as part of your theory of whatever? So. And Jay Rich says, why not Miles Farley? He was the kid making clothes and on the video at the store during the Shamal Drink store video. I mean, I do think it's possible that, like, I don't think that what we have remaining today necessarily means that's who's going to go to trial and what counts are still going to be moving forward in February when Whitaker wants this next trial to start. Because remember, they have until December 17th, right? So there's still a lot of parts moving. So maybe we'll see some kind of update or movement in relation to Miles Farley between now and December 17th. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, I think I do suspect that this might, the way they're leaning to look at just Demise McMullen at this point, Nard, for the murder of Donovan Thomas and highlighting in those other two, I think we might see something play out where they're going to tunnel vision the focus for the Shamal Drinks murder as well. Especially since Miles Farley would have been in a different car from Tamiki and Garlington. So. Oh, wow. Pretty Eyes. Yes. So, as a lot of you might be aware, Donovan Thomas, his mom, made a video. She went down to his gravesite and she was venting, and I'm not going to cast judgment on her after the not guilty verdicts for Diamante Kendrick and Shannon Stillwell, who were both facing charges for the murder of Donovan Thomas, but the jury acquitted them. So I get it. She's got grief, but imagine that happens. You make that video, and then here we are. It's Thursday. And you see 2 of the 5 total that were charged. 2 were acquitted. There's 3 left. And now of those 3, we're going to null pros. The state is asking the judge, hey, can you let us, we don't want to like try these two for this murder count anymore. So then there would just be one. And I think, yeah, she probably truly believed the state. She might truly believe all 5 of them are the ones that are responsible. I don't really know, but that's gotta feel like a slap in the face. So, and I agree with the sentiment here, like Hellraising Angel says, but it's the cops and prosecution's fault. Cops did crappy investigations, and the prosecution did not bring a great case in chief. It was all over the place. I agree across the board on this. But I'm just saying, like, people have their grief. Grief works how it works for each individual person. And I totally hear to criticize, and I can suggest that, Donovan Thomas's mom might be misguided, but how she feels is how she feels. And I'm curious how this news makes her feel if she was feeling the way she felt after those acquittals. Now the state's not even going to try against 2 of the remaining 3 that they said were responsible for the murder of your son. So, and I hope something changes. I hope, plea deals are so risky. But I mean, can you think of a better testament to the circular nature of plea deals, convictions? One witness, one co-defendant, one alleged co-conspirator or accomplice getting a plea deal in exchange for testifying against somebody else. Can you think of a better testament than this case to how there's little integrity behind that mechanism to secure a conviction and pursue a prosecution than getting a bunch of people to plea to count 1, RICO, maybe some extra gun charges, right? Because that's the scary part. You leverage these extra gun charges. A RICO count would carry time, don't get me wrong, but you tack on, we looked at you, we're going to tack on these gun charges. So now that's extra time. If you take it to trial and a jury thinks you possess this weapon, guess what? There's minimums. There's minimums there. So, doesn't this plea deal sound good? Don't you want to go home? Don't you want to get out of Rice Street? All the things that we heard the defense attorneys hammer into each time a witness that took a plea was on the stand. I mean, I don't think they were being hyperbolic at all, right? But they used that to secure this testimony, these factual acknowledgments, these RICO convictions. For what? And again, the only decision we have from a jury in relation to anyone charged in this indictment, the jury says no RICO, no gang activity. Like, just crazy. So, and hey, NJB Nene, good to see you. Hey to Barriqua Jewel tuning in. I don't know. I have like part of me was like overjoyed to see this, but I'm also like, dang, this is crazy. I want to see, do we have any updates? Oh, okay. So not exactly an update, but I like this. Joseph Papp is doing a throwback here to a statement from Fani Willis. So when announcing the YSL trial indictment, DA Fani Willis said, "The murder of Donovan Thomas in 2015 created violence like Atlanta has never seen. It was a goal of my predecessor, was it? And any person or prosecutor in this office to make sure that family received justice." To make sure that family received justice. That's interesting wording. Right, right. What a throwback Thursday. We have what happened today. There's only 5 defendants with charges pending still. It's Miles Farley, Tanquarius Mender, Christian Eppinger, Demise McMullen, and Demikian Garlington. Throwback Thursday. Violence Atlanta has never seen. And yet we just motioned for null pros on 6 different defendants in this indictment. And yeah, Shasta, this is the craziest part too. Free Munktunk because the state wanted to act like it's another reason that plea deals suck. Um, but he signs his plea deal to get out. He has certain factual acknowledgments in the plea deal. He's asked under oath about these things, and he's like, well, it didn't really happen that way. I get that I signed this, and I'm supposed to say that it did, but that's what you wanted me to say. And now he's caught up. His probation was revoked, 5 years. And those same things he had to sign off on special acknowledgments to. We have 2 individuals get acquitted. At least, Munktunk didn't really testify to or have any special acknowledgments about the Shamal Drinks murder. But speaking on the Donovan Thomas situation, 2 of the people that his factual acknowledgments applied to are acquitted. Entirely acquitted for anything relating to Donovan Thomas by a jury. And then another 2, the state's like, oops, we're just going to null pros now after all this time. So what does that really say about the substance of his factual acknowledgments that he signed off on? Cory Walker, I wish. I really feel like her doing that, and I feel like in the moment she was okay with doing what she did in the moment, but I feel like afterwards she was like, the state is kind of sketchy. So, and I don't know the mechanism for this. I don't know the vehicle for this. I don't really know, like, if he hasn't hired someone to try to help him out, I just don't know how that process works. So, just crazy. And so this is the problem, Jazzy, is, can his lawyer file a motion? I don't know. Does anyone know if he's still, like, all right with Derek Wright? Is that still his counsel? Like, who he'd call to speak to an attorney? Because if that's the case, this seems dead in the water. I just don't, like, Derek Wright wouldn't even stand up physically for his client on that day when his probation was revoked. I just don't see him filing a motion. So, wait, Nancy knew one too. Oh no. So we've got to deal with these 2. Oh boy. Oh my god, you're right. Nancy knew one too, says both NARs are still in the case. Could be Quay too. Oh my gosh, we get another hashtag free NARD. And is it Demise McMullen or is it Tinquarius Mender? Let me share something with you. I was just reading before this. Let me say it like 3 times. This has nothing to do with the YSL indictment. This has nothing to do with the YSL indictment. This has nothing to do with the YSL indictment. This is in relation to Falu Mbika Silla. I think jury came back with a verdict on October 4th, maybe. It's been like a little bit, but it's pretty recent. He was charged with like 2 murders, criminal street gang activity, a bunch of stuff. And I was looking over this motion in limine to exclude pretrial identification. Someone got word of mouth that someone was nicknamed Esco, and they're the ones that's responsible for this. And through a telephone game, someone ends up identifying Falu Silla as the police think he's a suspect. They give him a photo lineup of people, and they're like, yeah, I heard about it being Esco, and this is Esco. I can't really find much about this trial. I'm going to reach out to Nicole Fagan, who I think is still the attorney for Tinquarius Mender. She's still listed as the attorney of record for Tinquarius Mender. All these charges against him, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty for her client, Silla. So I'm pretty excited to see this fight that Tinquarius Mender puts up. What are the motions in this trial going to involve? If it's Whitaker, what is she going to allow or not allow pre-trial as far as, things that certain witnesses could testify to, certain gang experts could testify to. So, okay, Betsy, this is good. Keith Adams mentioned last night that a lawyer can file for a review of his sentence. I think this is in relation to Moonk. So, that'd be interesting. And this would relate to like an appeal of the sentence itself. Like the vehicle would be in relation to the underlying plea agreement and the sentence, and not an argument relating to the revocation. Possibly is what this sounds like. This would go into what Jim R., or Happily Angry Lawyer, keeps talking about. He was never charged properly. The whole 16-11-131 verse 16-11-133 carries different sentencing. So I think the vehicle would be appealing the underlying sentencing conditions and not necessarily dealing with the probation revocation being the issue. But I think, right, we all want to say like the revocation was crazy, but I think there's a strong vehicle here based on what I've been learning. So, and Andrea says I went to school with her. I'm assuming you mean Nicole Fagan. That's cool. And Nicole Fagan is an advocate of, she also represented a Pee-wee, but not Pee-wee Roscoe. She represented Pee-wee Longway, and I think still is representing Pee-wee Longway. But she's an advocate of treating your client as co-counsel, which is something that a lot of us have shown admiration for Doug Weinstein for doing, or, having positive thoughts on the dynamic we see between Diamante Kendrick and Doug Weinstein. Nicole Fagan is an advocate of that, has written a book about the concept. Really big advocate of that type of philosophy, that type of approach to criminal defense. So, let's see. Yeah, so YSL Terra, for these 6 co-defendants, so Khalif Adams, Damon Blaylock, Javoris Bradford, who, depending on what document you look at, is name spelled differently. What do we got? Justin Cobb. Is this Justin Cobb? Yep. Javon Fleetwood and Jaden Myrick. All counts that they were facing in the YSL indictment, the state is motioning to null pros. So, like crazy. Crazy. Yes. This too pretty iced tea. Shannon helped Max with the case. So, other than that, I want to share a link to a tweet that Joseph, I think I put it in the description as well. But if you guys want to take a look at the individual motions, let's see. He had it, oh, right here. Okay. So if you want to look at those individual motions, I'm not going to post like 6 individual links in the chat. So I'm going to link you to Joseph Papp's tweet. If you use X, please follow him. Please re-share his stuff. I notice a lot of his stuff doesn't get the reach or engagement, but he has stuff that only he really talks about. Really valuable stuff. So if you use the platform, please also, in addition to looking at this material, show him some love. There you go. Wendy Mitchell says they don't want further embarrassment. And then look at who's cleaning this up. Look at who's doing the organization. Abate steering the ship. They left him alone at the ship. And maybe he sat there and said, all right, you put me in charge. I'm going to do this the way that maybe it should have been done for a while. I'm going to work to try to go back to the drawing board. And I'm not trying to oversing praises for him, because I still think he had some shady moments in the trial we just watched. Even though he got there late, he still somehow found time to do some stuff I disagreed with. But as far as like, I don't know, if Love was sitting in that seat and Whitaker said 90-day trial and we're starting in February, I just don't see it playing out. But with Adam Abate, for better or for worse, I can see it kind of being possible. So that's my take there. So Quantavious Greer, Unfunk, he had taken a plea in this YSL indictment. If you're thinking of Greg King, the other, he wasn't named in the YSL indictment, but he is, he's got another indictment. He's facing gang charges. That's a separate indictment though. And I don't know if Greg King has like an also known as name. But Quantavious Greer, aka Unfunk, he faced 2 counts in this indictment and took a plea deal. So let's see. And then Sherry Aguilar, hold on, let's take a minute here. I'm like looking at these documents, totally missing this go by. Show some love to Sherry in the chat. Sherry, this is super nice out here gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much. I'm looking. So Daniel Rayner says they are dropping all the charges now because Thug pled out and Yak and Shannon were found not guilty. And it's just crazy. I mean, if they took the time to listen to some of the feedback from the jurors and to hear the jurors say, when we finally started talking about the RICO, that was the easiest one for us to decide. No. So if they even heard just that little bit of feedback from again, the jurors that were on with I'm Not a Lawyer But involved some alternates, but like 225 was a deliberating juror. So feedback you should take seriously. You really don't often get insight like that. So, and thank you guys in the chat for showing love here to Sherry. Big thanks to Sherry. Let's see. Yeah, so TCC Pro Academy says, how can you charge them with Nuts murder when the one they said did it was not guilty? It looks like they're just gonna move forward trying to charge Demise McMullen, aka Nard, for it. So, and I don't know, do I still have that PowerPoint? Let me see if I can pull up that Operation Planters PowerPoint real quick. I think I have it handy. Maybe I can just, I guess it'd be easier to look at the indictment anyway. But I think Demise McMullen, I think he's already doing time. For Dexter Montgomery. Let me see if I can search like Dexter Montgomery and get like a result on that trial. Demise McMullen. Okay, I'm just pulling up a random blog, so please don't, okay, no, actually we'll go to WBS TV, so. Oh my god, there's so many ads on this site. Oh, I guess I should search by last name. That'd be smart. Okay, never mind. They're not actually giving us the context here. When I searched, all right, we're just going to pull up the Operation Planters PowerPoint because these articles are not doing it. Google Drive. Let's see if it lets me find Nard. Okay, yeah, here we go. So shout out to the PowerPoint that wasn't allowed to come in. But this is Demise McMullen. They spelled his name wrong here. What else is new? I think he's doing time for a conviction. Like they talked about the Dexter Montgomery shooting in this trial, for RICO. but it was prosecuted separately, and I think he was convicted. Let's see if it says. It says Murphy has pled 20 years to serve 8. And it says awaiting trial here, so I guess I should keep looking. Like, oh my god. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe is he also, like, awaiting trial for that? I don't think... maybe that trial hasn't happened yet. I don't know, but the Google searches are not, they're not being very helpful right now. But yeah, it seems like they're going to just have Demise McMullen as far as this Donovan Thomas, who's responsible for it, left at this point. So, um... Tanaya says, yeah, there's no way on earth they will find an untainted jury if anyone goes to trial. I mean, because a lot of this stuff has been headline news, right? It's been, you know, maybe I didn't know about a certain trial until I saw a friend talk about it. There's a lot of people talking about this. Or maybe a trial wasn't getting good coverage. You know, this case really wasn't getting major publication coverage. Maybe right at the beginning when the charges came down, you hear big news about that. Especially it involves a music artist. So I know like Rolling Stone had an article on it. There was some bigger headlines when Brian Steele's held in contempt of court because that's just such a big story. But other than that, like the daily news, you got to go to like AJC and the local journalists. So, but still, it's still been going on for so long. There's been big headlines punctuating throughout this case. Voir dire is going to be crazy. So, and they've got to do it. They will not have the time to spend 10 months trying to seat a jury. So, and then, my bad, let me switch off the screen. I don't mean to have that lingering up here. I just don't always pay attention with StreamYard. We'll go back to Joseph Papp here. Let's see. And then I see someone saying, where did it go? Chief Deputy District Attorney. I don't think it's just, there isn't just the Chief Deputy District Attorney. I think it's a category. So it's not a either or where only one person can have that title. Oh, prayers for Andre Cook says, pray for my son at the ER constantly, maybe a suspected seizure. Oh no, that's not good. So prayers up for Andre Cook in the chat. That's scary. That doesn't sound easy. Hope we can like keep your mind busy, you know, keep your mind busy thinking about things. Michelle says, I don't think the state gave a darn, I like this, about investigating these murders until years later when they thought they could tie it to Young Thug's money with Rico. The state didn't care until big money was involved. Right. I think this is valid. I think this is a very valid theory. Oh my gosh. Just a whole mess. And I can't wait to watch that play out. I mean, if you guys want... It's not the most interesting thing in the world, but Glanville has a YouTube channel and there's like 2 videos on it total. And one of them is the hearing where they talk about, you know, the jeweler that's trying to get their property back that Jeffrey Williams had leased. Let me link over to that if you guys want to check it out. All right, so I think it's this one here because it's the one that it says I was watching. I'll link you guys here if you want to check that out. And yes, it is Glanville. Just a warning. And it is like a hearing for several other cases as well, so you got to look through and find it. But there is that if you're interested in looking at some of that forfeiture stuff. Wendy says no Glanville support. Nancy New One Too says, will M. Mungtung have to testify like in this trial and risk getting more time? His plea and it be perjury, or would it be safer to plead the fifth? Like, isn't that crazy? The idea that you have to like invoke, like plead the fifth just to avoid getting into trouble. I mean, what are they going to do? Hold him in contempt when he's already in custody? Not really a good bargaining chip to hold over him. So I would. I mean, at that point, F it. But at the same time, I think the state's got to be careful because he still gave testimony under oath. So if he's called to testify, the defense attorneys can ask him of what he said at a previous proceeding. And the state can try to clean it up and fight his credibility. But how did it work for the state when, well, we have to call our key witness and we know the defense is going to rip into the credibility of this witness, and then we'll try to rehabilitate them and just hope for the best. Did that work out so well for them on round one? I don't think so. I do not think so. So, crazy. I mean, it's true that the judge could add more time, but they'd have to go through another hearing procedure for that. I think that would be a big motivator for him to get a different attorney. So, and then Ghost. Oh, Ghost. Ghost is one of my long-term YouTube friends here. Been here since back in the days when this was a baby channel. Ghost just gifted 10 memberships, you guys. So if we could show Ghost some love in the chat, that'd be awesome. If you are feeling super inclined, you could also type out the 43881 for the full name here. Ghost, thank you so much. That's really nice of you. Yeah, this is true. He links Garlington to a lot. So who knows? Who knows, you guys? Let me double check. I want to see if we have anything else. Because I don't know. I feel like they did 5 of these 6 last night. They put through the one for Blaylock this morning. Maybe that's just because it takes some time to polish things off. You get tired, you go to bed. I'll do the other one in the morning. Who knows? Or maybe they made a different decision separately from the first 5 that they put together. Maybe more decisions like this will come forward. So I am going to be looking like a hawk for updates on this. Like, this is just, I can't believe we're doing this. I can't believe that after, stemming back 2014, 2015, these investigations, this thing that Fania Willis said, like, violence that we've never seen before after the Donovan Thomas shooting. Fast forward to December 2024, and here we are. So, I hope, the downside of stuff like this is it doesn't get to a point where it would be on appeal, which could establish precedent case law. But I hope we see some type of legislative changes. We see some procedural changes within the district attorney's office. I would like to see judges be more on alert during plea colloquies. Be able to turn a radar on, see if things really pass the smell test, be a bit more critical. Be a bit more willing to be lenient and lean towards a defendant's proposal, especially for like a non-negotiated plea, which I don't think happens that often, but oh boy. YSL Tara says, waiting on the multi-part Netflix expose on this mess. Heck yeah. Where do you guys have anything that's currently, let's see, let me open up what YouTube will let me redirect to. Because I was watching the Max Shart interview. Like, we ended the earlier stream this morning, went over to watch Max Shart talk. Really great interview that he did with Dennis Byron. and attorney Alabash. I never really saw her on YouTube. Followed her on X for a very long time, tons of insights, and not afraid to speak her mind. So, and aptly named, her screen name is Ike Speaks. But started following her a long time ago with the Jonathan Majors trial and have watched her talk about a lot of issues and learned a lot from her ever since. She teaches classes in law, former prosecutor in New York, which is a New York is a beast of its own when it comes to trials and procedures. So I saw her pop up on YouTube. I don't know if she has a channel, but also want to show her some love because she was definitely co-hosting. I think she was asking more questions than Dennis Byron at one point. So I'm going to link to her X here. If you guys aren't familiar, get that interview if you want to check that out, and then we'll see who it lets me redirect to that's live now. Heart of Inspiration's live talking about the Daystar scandal. So I think I can redirect to her. We'll redirect over to that. Let me get you this. Max Sharp. Dennis Byron. Okay, so here's the Sharp interview. And let me set up this redirect. I'll be going in as like a Bambi to this Daystar scandal a little bit. I've only like heard in passing some stuff about it. So I'll be in there like, what's happening? What is going on? Let's see. Redirect. Okay, so that's set up. So if you guys want to come over there with us, I will see you over there. Again, big thank you for the gifted memberships here from Ghost, also from Sherry earlier. Thank you for the supers. Thanks for the great conversation in the chat. And YSL Terra, great reminder here. I think I heard AV. I was confused on the other stream we did today. I was like, AV's going to go live today interviewing Max Sharp. That's actually scheduled for tomorrow on AV to the 7th Powers channel. But I think she said something yesterday that she might be interviewing Thugger Daily today. So I don't know if I saw that. But the best solution there, since we don't know, I'll send you guys the link to the interview that I thought was today that's actually for tomorrow with AV. If you guys want to hit that notify button. My bad on having the time wrong earlier on that. But there we go. So, and Michelle, if you're on replay, hey, hi and bye when you get to this point. Good to see you. And then see you guys over at Heart of Inspiration. You guys all have a good one. If something else pops up, you'll see me again today. But if not, have a good one. Take care, you guys.